Hey, this is GrungeWorks. Today I'm going to show you guys how to build a Flux workflow. So let's get started. It's pretty easy. It's a little bit different than creating an SDXL or Illustrious workflow. So whenever you build an Illustrious or SDXL workflow, you basically use the load checkpoint node. And if you notice, this node has a model, clip, and VAE port. Whenever you make a Flux workflow, you have to basically load those separately. So let me show you what I mean. Now, some Flux models, like the FPA models and a few others, they will allow you to load the model through the load checkpoint node. But if you use Dev or like the Canny or the Flux Fill, you'll have to go with the load diffusion model node. So we're going to do the Flux Dev, and then we'll have to load the clip and VAE separately. And even if you use this one, you're always going to have to load the clip and VAE separately because Flux uses its own VAE and it also uses two clip models. Alright, so I'll show you basically how to build that really fast. So what you want to do is go ahead and do the dual clip loader, and you want to load the clip L and the T5XXL that matches the version of Flux you're using. I'm using the Dev version, so I'm going to go with the FP16. You want to make sure type is set to Flux, and then we're going to do a load VAE for the VAE. And that's it. Next thing you need is the prompt. So we'll do clip text encode for the prompt. Now Flux Dev and the other and Schnell, they don't use a negative prompt. So all you have to do is alt click and drag. You're going to add it in the workflow, but you're not actually going to use it. So we'll come back to that. Next thing you need is the Flux Guidance node. Typically, but somewhere between 2 and 3.5 work fine, but depending on the model, you might be able to go with a higher guidance and maybe get a different effect. So I would just encourage you to test it out yourself and find out what results you get and how it works for you. Next you want to do is the case sampler, which puts all this together. And then you want to make sure you have an empty latent image, which is your canvas. Now, basically, SDXL and later they prefer a minimum of 1024, but what I do with Flux is actually pretty slow. So I'm going to show you a little trick in how to get better speeds. What I would do is leave it at 512, and then you want to set this to fixed. And then for the seed, you can use whatever number. I'm going to start with number 1. So what we're basically going to do is we're going to run it low, and if you like what you see, you can increase the resolution here and then run it again, and it'll run the exact same seed, but it'll have a higher resolution. You can also add an upscale at the end, which we'll do. I'm going to show you how to build an upscale in this workflow as well. There's a few different ways you can do it. You can do the SD Ultimate Upscale, which just seems to be the most popular. That's the one that I use. Or you can use another upscale loader, but I'm going to go with the SD Ultimate Upscale. I'll show that to you in just a moment. We need a VAE decode to decode everything into a way we can see it, and then we'll use a save image node. Now for the upscale, we're going to go with SD Ultimate Upscale, which should automatically be in Comfy. We're going to need an upscale model, so you just use the load upscale model. Whoops. And connect that here. I'm going to go with the 4x ultra sharp, is pretty popular. And then this one's going to also generate an image. So we're going to go back and connect all these. The cool thing about Comfy is everything's color coordinated, so if you're not sure what goes where, just match the colors. Just make sure with your load VAE is the Flux VAE. Now for the Ultimate SD Upscale node, you have to basically move this VAE decode image output into that image port, and then you have to bring all of the other things here. So you can do it a couple different ways. You can either just drag them over, or you can create a pipe, or you can do anything everywhere node. I'll show you what that looks like. And basically whatever you connect to it, it'll broadcast out, and any place where there's a receiver like this, it's going to light up because it's going to receive that signal. So this is basically like a radio receiver. So that's one way of doing things so that you don't have to have a lot of nodes everywhere. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and drag these over. Like so. Now for this, the steps, you can keep this at whatever you want. I mean, 20 is the default. I usually go much lower because it makes it faster, so 8's usually good enough for me. One thing you want to be aware of is whenever you're using Flux, since you're not using a negative prompt, you want to set the CFG to 1, and that basically means it's not going to use a negative. The standard settings should be fine, and everything else here should be fine as well. Although I'm going to change the CFG to 1 as well. Alright, so we'll go ahead and just put in a quick prompt, and then let me make sure everything's right. We'll fire it up. And that's it. As you can see here, this is basically 1024 by 1024. It's pretty fast. It might be as fast as just running it normally using this upscaler if you set it to a low step count, but setting this to 512 I think is a really cool way of getting a very fast output, and then you can determine based on that if you like what you see, and then you can do an upscale of that. Now if you didn't want to go through with the upscale right away, you could just bypass this and then you can run it again. So let me show you what I mean. So if you go to a node and you Control B, that'll bypass it, which means it's not going to be used. So I'm going to change the C to 2 and then we'll run it. Okay, and as you see, it shows up here because I didn't bypass this node, but it's still the same as resolution. And then if you like what you see and you want to go ahead and upscale that, then just click on here, Control B again, and then just cue it again. And since it's the exact same prompt and it's fixed, it'll automatically start from where you left off, and then it should upscale this for you. And there we go. So as you can see, it's 1024 by 1024. And that's it. That's a basic Flux workflow, which includes an upscale at the end and a couple of tips on how to increase the speed of your Flux output. Hope that helps. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Talk to you guys again soon.